All right, hello everyone. I don't know if there's anyone here at the moment. It says 0 people watching. Maybe we have to give it a second. Oh, I'm lagging a little. Oh, there we
Oh,
go.
it's just
Okay, we're good. Okay. All right, hi everyone. We're welcome to our first NaNoWriMo write-in of 2021. We'll still give it a moment for more people to roll in. I know it's a little early, but hello. If you want to introduce yourself in the chat, feel free. Say your name or where you're from, or if you're doing nano, or if you're not doing nano, really whatever. I'm Shaelin. If you've been to these webinars before, you might know me. If you don't know me, I make the videos on this YouTube channel. I'm joined today by Kleopatra. Would you like to introduce
hello.
yourself?
I'm Kleopatra. I'm from Cyprus, and I'm one of the Reedsy blog people. So I am, just another Reedsy friend joining Shaelin for some fun writing.
Yeah. So if you
That's about
read the
it.
blog, then you have Cleopatra to thank for that.
Well, not entirely, but yeah.
All right. A lot of people, I feel like I've seen like multiple people in this chat say that they're from Connecticut. So maybe we have a large viewership in Connecticut for this one particularly. Someone from PEI. I was just in PEI. Hello. Hello from Algeria. Hello from Brooklyn. Hello from India. Hello from Ohio. Hello from New Zealand. Hello from Dublin. All over the place. For those of you guys, who I assume is most of you who are doing NaNoWriMo, how has that been treating you?
How's it
Oh, someone
treating
says
you,
you're doing a
Shaelin?
Flash Nano. That's cool. Is that like where you write like a Flash fiction every day? That sounds very cool. Hello from Argentina. Hello from Turkey. Must be some wacky time zones for some of you guys. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I think Turkey is probably around the same time as me, which is 8 p.m. So not too bad.
Okay, all of you guys who are in India, isn't it super late?
Yeah.
But like, I get it. I'm a night writer, so I really can't judge.
Is it morning
Um,
for you?
yeah, it's like 10 in the morning. Um, Someone just asked if we could get closed captioning. We've tried in the past, but there's no way to have it on a live as we're talking, but it will be available on the replay. But we've tried before, and it's not really an option. For those who don't know, what is NaNoWriMo? That's a good question. Very weird sounding word, isn't it? NaNoWriMo is National Novel Writing Month. So it's basically a writing challenge that happens in November, and the idea is to just challenge yourself to write a 50,000 word novel in a month, which works out to about 1,700 words a day. Yeah, it's pretty fun and also a little stressful sometimes.
Yep. Are you aiming for the full 50,000 shilling?
I'm not. I am not actually drafting a book right now, so it wasn't really possible for me to do that. So I'm just trying to write every day for the month, but I've mostly
Okay.
been just like editing things. So because of that, my total word count so far is like 4,000 words.
Oh, mine's worse. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. What about
Uh,
you?
yeah, I've never done NaNoWriMo before. So this will be my first time, except I'm breaking all of the rules.
That's fair.
So
I'm breaking all the rules too.
I think that's kind of the fun of it. You just ride the wave of there's other people writing with you.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I feel like that's the fun part about it, is that like everyone is doing it. It's kind of fun. I hate not doing it because I don't like missing out, but then
yeah.
I never actually have a book to write at the time, so I just have to do like very weird things. Yeah. But are you like working on like a book actually? Whereas
Yeah,
I
I
don't
mean,
even
I
have a
don't know if
book.
it's gonna be a book. It's currently just some random stuff in a on a document.
That's
um,
most books, I feel like.
yeah, yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
I just don't really know if it's going anywhere, but I'm trying to do it anyway. That's kind of the goal,
Yeah.
to do it anyway.
Yeah. I think that's a good, like, that's kind of the good purpose of NaNoWriMo. I remember a friend of mine once, like, the document of her novel in progress was titled, "Can we please just this once turn this into a novel?" Which I feel like is, that's the spirit.
Yeah, there's been many documents that have not, in fact, turned into novels.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, I guess we could probably start in a moment. It's like 3 minutes after the hour. So I assume like most people who are joining us will have shown up. Um, I know there was some promises of some NaNoWriMo motivation tips. So if we want to do a couple now and then maybe a couple after, like the first sprint, maybe? I don't
Yeah,
know. Yeah.
sounds good to me.
Cool. Okay, so we'll start with a couple NaNoWriMo motivation tips. Um, I think we've each got a couple, so maybe I'll do one and then you can do one, maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so my Martin is here.
Hi,
Sorry, I
Martin.
forgot to set you a video on that one. Don't worry, it's just me, just a small cameo. Don't worry.
No worries.
Okay, so the first tip that I have, I don't know if it's really a tip, but it's to remember that finding motivation isn't really about like finding the will within yourself. It's about adjusting your process to make it easier. Like if writing is feeling really hard, instead of asking yourself like, "Oh man, maybe I just don't have the motivation. How do I find the inherent motivation within me?" Instead ask yourself, "Okay, why is writing hard? How could I make it easier?" And that will make it much easier to be motivated because the task will be easier. So if that's something you can change in your writing process, or if it's something with your draft that's not working, like if there's just not enough like conflict or stakes in the book itself, it'll probably be hard to write because there won't be much fuel. So before worrying about like digging up motivation from deep within your soul, instead just like try to make the process of writing easier. And it will be much more motivating to write because you won't be struggling.
That's a good tip. um, in fact, it ties in with what I was going to say, uh, which is
Nice.
that I think if you write for joy rather than word count, that is a very helpful way to find ways to move forward. Um, I think, for example, for NaNoWriMo, I think a lot of people are told to not self-edit at all while they're writing and just try to get as many words out as possible. Um, and the Nano stats page can be quite stressful in that regard. But I feel like a lot of people actually find writing more joyful if they feel like what they're writing is good. And maybe that
Mm-hmm.
means pausing just a little bit to change a sentence you hate, rather than just kind of have it stare at you while you progress. um, so I think there's a lot of emphasis on word counts with Nano, but
Mm-hmm.
we're clearly both on the camp of not really caring so much about the word count itself, but just
Mm-hmm.
trying to use it as an opportunity to get stuff done.
Yeah, and like I know that technically the whole philosophy of NaNoWriMo is supposed to be like stop caring about the quality and just write. But
Yeah,
there are some people who like that is good for them, but for a lot of people, they kind of need to care about the quality. Like if I don't pay attention to the quality of what I'm writing, it doesn't take long before I'm like, this is the worst book ever. Why am I even writing it? And it
yeah,
just
and you just
feels
want
like
to stop.
fine. Yeah. So I feel like just because like that is the technically like the purpose behind NaNoWriMo doesn't mean that you have to adhere to that mindset if it doesn't really make sense for you. One of the
Yeah,
other tips that I had was reread your work because last Nano, I normally reread my work a ton as I'm writing it and like I edit it and stuff.
yeah.
But last NaNoWriMo, I got like halfway through the month and I hadn't reread what I'd written at all, and I was starting to feel kind of
Wow.
down on it. And so then I just reread it and I was like, wait a second, I've actually written stuff over the past 2 weeks and it's actually good.
Yeah,
And I actually realized like I was like, oh wait, I've actually made something because I hadn't looked at it. It almost felt like I hadn't really accomplished anything because I'd never gone back and read it. So rereading your work is good.
Yeah, agreed. Um, it just feels like you've got somewhere to use to step forward from. Otherwise, you're
Hmm.
just in a void.
Yeah.
And if you're
Yeah,
writing that
exactly.
fast, I've never managed to write as many words as it takes to actually complete NaNoWriMo in a month. But if you're writing that fast, there's stuff I imagine you don't even remember writing by the end.
Hmm.
Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, agreed.
Oh yeah, I did write the 50,000 a few times when I was in high school, and I don't remember like anything of what's in any of those books because I wrote
Wow.
them so fast. It's like I don't know what's in there. I don't remember it. Like I wrote that in a fever dream, which is kind of disappointing because I have like no memories of writing my own book.
Yeah, that's weird.
All right, should we do a couple sprints since that was why we all gathered here, I
Yeah.
believe? All right. So if you've never joined us for our writing sprints or never done writing sprints, um, it's fairly simple. Basically, we just set a timer. I think we're going to do 15 minutes. And the idea is just like focus, write for 15 minutes, and then afterwards we can just say how much we wrote. And it's kind of a nice way to get your writing done in very like compressed time. Martin,
Cool.
if you could bring us a timer, that would be lovely. I'm requesting one from the void.
Indeed, and so you shall have one. How long do you want?
I think 15 would be good for the first one,
Yeah.
unless anyone has objections to that.
Cool. And yeah, if anyone needs something to write, we do have links in the description of the video to our generators or writing prompts. This is all about just actually sitting down writing and just not caring too much. Anyway, I'll put the timer on.
Yeah. And if anybody finds the chat annoying, you can click a little button that says hide chat. So you don't have to look at it updating while you're writing.
Yeah,
Just
because
a
some
little
of
heads up.
you, even though we're supposed to be writing, just chat with each other. And we see when you do, by the way.
Well, not if you hide the chat, Shaelin.
It's true.
Oh, there we go.
All right. Oh, it's already begun. Okay. We'll reconvene in 15 minutes. You can write about whatever you want to write about, for those asking. Just write whatever you're working on.
Wow.
Hello. That
That was
was
loud.
an unexpected alarm.
How was that?
For me, it was okay. I wrote words, which was good. How about you?
Yeah. Yeah, same. I think I wrote just under 300, which is pretty shocking considering my usual
Yeah,
pace.
that's good. I think I wrote. Oh, let me check. Okay, well, I wrote. This is gonna sound like a lot, but it's a bit of a cheat. Technically, I wrote 530, but I'm rewriting an old story right now, and so a lot of that was just like transcribing.
Sorry, I think there's loads of bells ringing in my neighborhood.
Yeah. Oh, those are in your
Uh,
neighborhood. For some reason, I thought that that was Martin just like playing another sound.
no, it's real life. But yeah, yeah, that was nice.
Hmm.
I enjoyed that.
How
Um,
many words did all of you guys write? Or if not
yeah.
words, just like how did it go? I mean, how are you feeling about it? That's almost more important than the word
Oh,
count.
513, 416.
Wow, that's a lot.
You're all very
540,
productive.
451. And I think I've got a handle on a story I've been working for over a year. Nice.
Yay, 276, 225.
225,
Finish the section. Great.
400-ish words. 600 words.
Oh my god.
Wow, I think you won that one.
Yeah, it's not a competition, but if it
It
were,
is not a competition, but
you would
if it
win.
was, you would win.
Cool. So people have been asking. Some folks have been joining a bit late. Within this webinar or this workshop, what are people supposed to do with the things that they've been typing during the sprints?
Treasure it forever.
Um,
Turn it into a book. You don't have to. I mean, there isn't really a way for you to send it to us. The purpose is really just to write for yourself to get stuff done. But yeah, you don't really. I mean, if you want, you can post some in the
yeah,
comments. But yeah,
this
you don't
is
have to
this is mostly
send
an
it to us.
exercise in holding ourselves accountable to actually get
Yeah,
some writing done. So
yeah,
it's more about doing it with some company.
yeah. It's really just about the company.
Um, yeah, I feel like in light of how much everybody's writing, we sound less and less qualified to give productivity tips. But I feel
Yeah.
like but I feel like you had something else you wanted to say after the first sprint, Shaelin.
Oh, did I? Well, I do have a couple more. I do have two more tips planned out. So,
Go for it.
um, my other tips, well, these were a couple that I have talked about in, maybe this is a bit of a spoiler for Friday's video, but
Ooh.
that's okay. Sneak peek. I only have so many tips within me, so you're gonna get some of them twice. So the first one, and I think that this is a good one for kind of like around the middle of NaNoWriMo, if you feel like things are getting a little stale, is to just change up your writing routine. Um, Especially if you feel like you're starting to get burned out, because that's what happens. Like, that's how burnout happens. Burnout happens when you do the same thing over and over for too long a time without any variation. So if you feel like you're starting to get a little burned out, or writing is just not that like exciting, try changing your writing routine. This could be super small things, like change the room that you're writing in. Sometimes I just change like how my document is formatted, like change the font or something, just so that it looks a little different, like super small things. Change the time of day, really anything. And that can kind of make it seem like new and fresh. Um, so that's one. And then I don't know if you have any others. Because if not, I do have one more.
I was gonna say, and I didn't come up with this myself. I read about it somewhere else. I don't remember where, but it was kind of given as a nano tip that if you're struggling with a specific section, you can just leave it. I tend to write quite linearly, so I like to like start from somewhere and just keep going rather than write all over the place. So the idea of just leaving a scene is quite revolutionary to me. But you can just like put a square bracket in there and be like, finish later, and then pick up from somewhere where you have a better sense of what you're doing with that scene.
I think that that's
Yeah,
really good. Like, I'm the same as you, where I write very linearly. And so the thought of doing that, it's like pretty rare that I would do that. But every once in a while, a scene is just like, no, like it just won't happen. And
yeah,
especially if you're trying to just like, keep producing, just skip it.
yeah, or you have a scene that you're already in the middle of, and you're not super sure how to finish it, or how to like end it well. And the stress of like finding the right way to do it prevents you from actually writing anything that follows. So yeah, that is something I find useful.
That is a very good one, I think, especially for NaNoWriMo. My final tip that I had was set aside time to think. Because I think that like before NaNoWriMo, you're not really writing, but you're thinking about your project a lot. And so in that first week, like it's usually pretty easy to get the words down because like you've been thinking about your project, you're very excited to write it. But then midway through, you kind of like exhaust all of the thinking that you've done. And sometimes I think the best way to like get a bit more motivation or more inspiration is to like actually like give your like literally set aside time to think. For me, like I usually like to go for a walk if I need to think because I find that like walking gets my brain thinking better. But sometimes I'll literally just like sit there with like my writing playlist and just like try to envision the chapter that I'm writing. And I don't know, sometimes that just really unlocks things. And sometimes a new idea is kind of what you need to like just like reignite your motivation. That's all the tips I have.
We've been having people ask about tracking word counts, especially as some folks, I think, are writing on longhand or using a notepad. Is there perhaps some way that writers can maybe track their progress word count-wise?
Yes, there is. Funny you would ask. So, if you haven't heard of it, the Reedsy book editor is our free writing and formatting software. I personally use it anyway. I didn't just start using it, so I could say this little plug. But I really think it's cool. And I think Martin was gonna show you. So this is my little chapter 2. I haven't started writing anything in here because I didn't want to share any horrible drafts. But if you go on this little sidebar, it shows you your drafts, which for me is really cool because I found out that I tend to delete a lot of words. I think I'm writing very little, but it turns out I delete about 1 or 3 words, which is crazy. But you can give it your final goal on a deadline, and it's going to tell you how many words you need to write every day to get there. You can tell that my goal is very unachievable. I just put it there for the sake of putting it down, but I'm not going to achieve that. But it'll also send you emails reminding you when you're falling behind, which is cool. You can also opt out if that's not your thing. But yeah, it's very fun. I specifically love this little removed stat. Yeah, I don't know. Shaelin, do you have a sense of how much?
Cleopatra, like, how much must a tool like this cost? You're probably paying hundreds upon hundreds of dollars for something like this, right?
Well, my dear concerned consumer Martin, it is actually free. But yeah.
Yeah, it is really nice. It's like, it's real smooth.
It is.
Like, as softwares go, like, it's pretty buttery.
Yeah, buttery is the right word for it. And since it is free, you might as well give it a go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it gives you really nice, like, kind of similar to like how you can get an overview of your whole project, like how Scrivener has it. It has that as well on the sidebar, so you can like rearrange stuff and really easily jump between. Because I know in Word, the way that I jump between chapters is I have to think of a word that I know is in that chapter, search for it in the document, and that's how it's not very good in the Reedsy book editor. You just click. and not have to come up with like weird word searching hacks
Yeah.
like you do in Word.
Yeah, writing in Word becomes a little bit maddening after you've tried to read
Mhm.
book editor. Anyway, yeah, warmly recommended. I think Martin has just posted a link where you can find the book editor app in the chat. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you say, Shaelin? Do we want to go for another sprint?
I think that would be great. Another sprint. Should we do 15 minutes again? If that sounds good with
Yeah.
everyone.
Cool.
I feel like
15
10
minutes.
is usually not enough for me.
15 minutes works for me. For everyone who tuned in a little bit late, if you're not working on your own book or short story, in the description of this video, you can see links to our writing prompts, our plot generator, book title generator. All of those are just great things to just spark off an idea of something to write. You can continue writing the thing you were writing for the first sprint or start on something new. It's up to you. Nobody has to see this stuff.
We even have a prompt contest running until this Friday if you wanted to drum up something for that.
How much might you
Yeah.
win for such a competition? Probably like $2, $3.
It is 250. Thanks for asking, Martin.
Wow.
Cool. Should I set the timer?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think let's go. Surprise us with a fun, new, different sound at the end.
Okay.
I always look forward to it.
Don't worry. There'll be something different.
Okay. It keeps me on my toes. This me every time.
My God. That was alarming. How was the little sprint, Shaelin?
I mean, I once again cheated. Like, technically, I added 700 words to my draft. Most of
My
them were
God.
words I wrote a very long time ago and was just like retyping out because I'm just rewriting something right now. So
I'll take them. It counts.
I could never write 700 words in 15 minutes otherwise. It was a lot of copy and paste.
Yeah. I
How
mean,
about you?
sounds productive. Let me count it. I have 206 words, so just a bit less than before, but still pretty good, I think. Not about to break any records, but I got some stuff done. How did everybody else do?
Well, someone says my dog looks up from across the room each time. Hi to your dog.
Somebody
So
said
I made it 700 words, 500
500.
words.
Wow.
Have we asked people like what they're working on? That might be a fun thing to share if people are up for talking about what their current project's about.
Yes, please tell us. I
Yeah,
love
would love
hearing
to.
about people's project. That's my favorite thing,
Well,
is just to know all the details of people's books.
while people sort of send that in, would either of you like to share what you're working on? You don't have to sort of go into any detail, but what's the pitch? Pitch it to me.
Oh, well, I'm rewriting one of the first short stories that I ever wrote. So I wrote this first story for the first time in like 2017 when I didn't know how to write a short story. And so now I'm rewriting it to make it not bad, basically.
Fair.
Because when I look over it right now, like, there's so much, like, I clearly just didn't know what I was doing because there's so much, like, kind of just like narrative slack, and the prose style is like very overwrought. So just taking something old, making it good, basically.
Fair. Yeah, I don't think I wanna read anything from 2017 at the moment.
Yeah, that's the worst part of it, is that I have to read what I wrote in 2017, and it's like, oh
Yeah.
god.
But kudos to 2017 Shaelin for having ideas that are worth rewriting in the first place.
I mean, it's that, or I have to write a new story for my collection. Like, it's easier to rewrite the old ones.
Yeah. I
Second
don't
draft
think
is an
mine is in.
alternate history novel. Sorry, I'm just
Ooh,
looking at what people are writing.
yeah,
An alternate
it's
history novel
fine.
set in the world of British politics from 1912 to 1948. Historical fiction is so hard. Anyone who writes historical fiction is so, like, you guys are so strong because it takes so much research. So I have so
Yeah.
much respect for anyone who can write historical fiction.
I once started to write a story that was set in the 50s, and I think I wrote a paragraph, and then I was like, this needs too much research. And then I kind of gave up.
Ooh, someone's working on one of the Reedsy prompts. Start your
Oh,
story with the character saying, listen.
exciting.
I'm currently working on a short story about animal rights. You know, I love a short
Yay.
story. I love animal rights. So that sounds like a great story. Oh, a cosmic horror drama. That
Oh,
sounds really cool. Ghost writing a memoir for an 83-year-old man. That must be interesting. Like, if you're ghost writing a memoir for someone, like, I feel like you have to really, like, learn their life story. Like, it must be pretty
yeah,
interesting.
and what their voice sounds like.
Mm-hmm. A dual timeline novel set in the mid 1980s and late 1990s. I keep starting over at a different point in the story. That's very relatable.
Yeah.
Oh, someone else doing one of the listening prompts. A father who cares for
Hey.
his schizophrenic daughter is baffled when he suddenly can't hear her usual voices, but he can.
Interesting.
A lot of you guys are doing the listening prompts. That's exciting. Excited to see all your stories. On the night of the debutante gala, Annette Forestier, the heir of wine and speakeasies in France and New York, is kidnapped and murdered. No, I was like, she sounds so cool. but it's
Oh
probably a
god.
very interesting mystery.
Hopefully the killer is caught.
I'm writing the third book in my first world horror fantasy. Horror
Oh.
fantasy is such a good like genre mix. I feel like it's not mixed enough, but it's a really good genre mix.
So I know like a lot of people find it quite useful, I know, sometimes to work from a plan or a structure. I guess if they know what they have to do is right in front of them, it helps them work. Shaelin, do you? I know you're a bit of a free writer. Do you ever feel like it's
Yeah.
useful to sort of have something planned so you kind of know what you want to achieve in the day?
I think it really does depend. Like I'm very much what I think a lot of people would call a plantser. So like I don't usually outline my work in its entirety, but like if I have good thoughts, I write them down. You know, like I'll take like very extensive notes, but I never really organize them. So I feel like most of the time I do know like what I'm going to write that day. I just don't really have like a set outline to follow. So it's kind of like there is direction, but it's very like fluid. Um and then I find that like if I'm writing a short story like I'm writing right now, like I mean obviously this is a rewrite, so I pretty much know what's gonna happen. But I'll get to a certain point in the draft where it's like, okay, I know what's gonna happen, and I'll make like a brief little list of bullet points that are gonna happen. I think that like in terms of like just like within a day, it can be really helpful. Like even if I don't outline my whole book, like sometimes just writing out like, okay, this is what's gonna happen in the scene today, very briefly, can definitely be really helpful.
Do you think you enjoy the rewriting process, or do you feel like restricted by the fact that you know what's happening?
I I mean, I kind of enjoy rewriting things, I think. I mean, not really. Like, I would rather write my stories well enough the first time that I don't have to rewrite them.
Yeah.
But this one, I think I am enjoying the rewriting process because I feel like the thing that I enjoy the least about writing is plot and like
Okay.
figuring out what's going to happen. And the thing that I enjoy the most is like the language and like the like character psychology. So I feel like when
Yeah.
I'm rewriting things, I can just focus on the things that I really like, um, because I'm very familiar with the story. So like I don't mind it honestly, but like also here's to hoping that I write good first drafts that don't need to be completely rewritten again.
Yeah, that sounds. Yeah, and I don't really know. I don't think I've done much rewriting, but it does feel like the plot is a major source of anxiety the first time around. So maybe
Mm-hmm.
not having that kind of hanging over your head
Yeah. I
is
think like
potentially fun.
for a short story, it's fine, but like I did rewrite a novel once and that was I wouldn't recommend I would recommend not having to do that. It gets pretty dull like rewriting a novel because it's like you're like just rewriting like tens of thousands of words that you've already written, and it feels like it gets to a point where it feels really boring. But like with a short story, it's only a couple thousand words, so that doesn't really happen.
Yeah.
Ooh, I know we're saving the Q&A for a bit later, but a question's popped up I thought might be
Yep.
fun to talk about. Vivian B asks, with COVID, obviously, internet learning is always good and helpful, but do you have any tips for finding local writers to socialize and work with? Do either of you have any sort of writing community that you sort of surround yourself with?
I mean, I do, but I don't know how helpful this is to other people because my I do have a great like group of local writing friends, but the way to do that was I had to do an entire degree and spend many years in university in order to meet them, which is not the most efficient way to make friends. Um, you can look to see if there are like just writers groups like on I don't know like maybe on Facebook. Sometimes libraries have them.
Yeah,
Um,
I was gonna say maybe the internet is a good place to look for local groups and then
ooh, you know where
hopefully
you can
take it
actually
off
look?
the internet.
The NaNoWriMo forums have regional threads,
Yeah.
and they do get pretty specific. So you can go to the NaNoWriMo forums and like find your regional thread, and sometimes they even like have write-in events. I mean, they probably don't have them now because of the pandemic, but like I went to one year, like a long time ago, that like my like local library was hosting. So that is a good place to look.
Yeah, and I find over here in the UK at least, like there are message boards up at local libraries. A lot of people sort of overlook it because I think a lot fewer people go to libraries than they should, but they're generally good resources, and they're always looking to find any way to increase footfall, and like allowing writing groups to hold sessions there is pretty useful. Of course, do
And
it
also,
safely.
if your library doesn't have a writing group,
You
then
should
start
start
one.
one.
Yeah. Like pretty much any library will, if you ask a library, like, can I start a writing group? Like they'll do that. Libraries are great. So yeah.
Yeah.
Discord's also an option.
Yeah.
Cool. You folks want to do one quick last one, and then we'll have a bit of a Q&A at the end?
Yeah, sure.
Sure. One more. Do we want to do it slightly shorter, like 10 minutes, or
Yes.
should we just go for a full
Like
15?
do an all-out sprint. Proper 10
Yeah.
minutes.
All right.
So
We'll
yeah,
do 10 minutes.
if anyone has a question, stick around till after this, and then we'll blast through a bunch of them. Yeah. Okay. Timer coming up imminently.
Thank you.
Right. We're off.
Stop writing.
Wow. That was a lot gentler than before.
Yeah,
Thanks, Martin.
that was the best one so far.
How was it, Shaelin?
I think good. I mean, I completely forgot that we were doing a writing sprint, so I was very surprised when it
Oh, wow.
ended. I have no idea how much I wrote because I don't really remember where I ended the last sprint. So probably around
That
400
really
words,
sounds
let's
like
say, give or
you
take.
got into the flow.
Yeah, I was not really paying attention. I think I rearranged things a little, so I don't really remember where the last sprint ended. How about you?
Wow. I think I have 207 words, but I feel like most of them are really bad. I didn't really know what I was writing, so I just kind of wrote at the void. But that's okay. At least I tried. How did everybody else do?
Someone tried dictating. That's cool. I've always wanted to try dictating, but I'm way less eloquent when I'm speaking than when I'm typing, so I don't think it would really work for me.
I think
140? Nice.
I think
222. That's so symmetrical.
it must be impossible to do purple prose if you're dictating, though, because it's gonna sound
Mhm.
so ridiculously cringy.
Yeah, I just think it would be like I would be really bad at it because I don't really know how to talk. But I feel like for those who can dictate, it must be like very efficient.
Just want to mention to folks that we're going to have our Q&A, so if you have any questions for Shaelin and Kleopatra, just send them in now. Otherwise, we'll keep on sharing people's progress.
347? That's for 10 minutes. That's really good.
Yeah.
166 in 15 minutes. Now the same word count in 10 minutes. Wow.
Oh, picking up speed.
Worked on short stories mission, but joined late to the sprint.
That's
That's
okay.
okay. There's really no rules about these writing sprints. We're really just hanging out. "75 words. I had something that needed urgent attention. It happens. I have multiple writing projects to work on, and I'm confused on how to manage them. Like, do I allot a certain time period to each project or make it a point to write a little of everything each day? I feel very qualified to answer this because I work on about 5 things at a time. Um, I think it does just depend on finding a system that works for you. I don't find that trying to write a little bit of everything each day is that helpful because it's just very hard to get into a flow if, let's say, you're working on 3 things at once. You're just going to be working on like a tiny little bit of each thing every day. So the way that I find is better is to kind of like pick a task that will take around like a couple days to maybe a couple weeks and focus on that until it's done. And then I move on to the next task. And I usually have my next few tasks lined up. So if my current task is to rewrite a short story, I'll work on that until this is done. And then I'll move on to my next task, which might be working on my novel. And maybe I'll say I'm going to do 3 chapters of that novel and I'll work on those 3 chapters until they're done. So I kind of switch between projects every couple days to couple weeks and rotate through them that way. That's the system that I find works the best for me. But you can try different things. Like I've heard of people who were working on 2 projects at once and they would like alternate day by day. So it's really up to you, but that's the system that I find works for me.
Yeah, I think if you sorry, if you're working on too many things at a time, it might be hard to do some of the kind of subconscious work that comes. Sometimes, like you're maybe you have a dilemma or you're not sure where to go next, and you aren't really consciously solving that problem, but it just comes to you. Maybe when you're
Mm-hmm.
showering or like when you're in bed trying to fall asleep. And I feel like
Mm-hmm.
when you have too many projects going on at the same time, that might be harder to kind of accomplish.
Yeah, I think if you're trying to work on like many things in a day, it's very hard to like get into like a flow state. But I think that in general, it can be nice to have multiple projects because then when you're tired of one, then you procrastinate it with the other. And then when you get tired of that one, you procrastinate with the other. And so it's kind of nice. You always have something to go to. How much do you edit, revise, or rewrite a draft before you share it with a writing partner or writing group? I'm scared to share my writing until I've edited it to death.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
I think there's nothing wrong with editing it to death before sharing it. There's also nothing wrong with sharing it in a raw draft if you know that you're not gonna take any criticism really badly.
Mm-hmm.
I think the most useful thing to share a draft that you're not happy with yet. It would be if you need actually practical advice on something, like if you need somebody to check whether something's historically accurate, or you need like a sensitivity reader for a specific scene. Obviously, all of that can come later on when you've done everything. But if you feel like the next scene depends on getting this scene right, then sure, you can just clarify to whoever it is you're giving it to read that you
Mm-hmm.
are specifically looking for feedback on that element and that everything else is not yet fixed in place.
Yeah. I think it depends on a couple things. Like, first of all, it depends on just like how comfortable you are with the people you're sharing your stuff with. Like, sometimes,
Yeah.
you might have been exchanging work with someone for years, and so sharing very fresh work is not really embarrassing. But maybe, if you're with like new writing partners, it might feel kind of weird to like send them your rough drafts. So like whatever you're comfortable with, and it might depend on the person. I think I find that like I like to share work with people when I need feedback to edit it further. Like when I get to a point where I'm like, okay, it's just not possible for me to fix this without someone else editing it. Because the way I feel about it is if I give someone a draft and there are already problems in it that I know I could fix, but I'm just still giving it to them, they're going to comment on the things that I already knew about. And then I'm going to fix those. And it's like, I already knew I could have fixed that. Kind of wasting everyone's time. And then it's like, if there are obvious problems that you already know you can fix and you give it to someone else, they'll comment on those problems because those will probably be the obvious things rather than like finding subtler things that maybe you can't pick up on your own. So like I like to revise it as well as I can before I share it with anyone, but I also don't worry about it too much. Like I have people that I've been exchanging work with for a very long time, so they've said they've seen some bad things from me, and that's sometimes how it is.
Like on the other side of things as well, like I think it's like useful not to sort of frame it in a way where you go, I don't want to share this until it's perfect, because once you get to that point, it almost seems like you're sharing it so that someone can validate that this is amazing, and there's
Yeah,
usually
that's
only one
true.
way it can go.
Mm-hmm. And then it can feel like harder to like take the feedback and harder to even edit it if you're like, okay, this is perfect, now it's time to share. And then people are like, okay, fix these things, and you're like, but it was perfect.
Yeah.
How do you deal with imposter syndrome? Oh man, I kind of wish
Indeed.
I knew. I
Yeah.
think remembering that like pretty much everyone does, um and also that like, do imposters really exist in writing? Like, if you enjoy writing and you want to write, like, you can't be like not worthy of your work being like successful or people enjoying your work or you enjoying your own work. And like focusing more of the attention on like creating something that you're happy with and that you enjoy creating than I guess like earning any kind of like approval maybe can help, but it's pretty difficult. I think pretty much every single writer that I know deals with imposter syndrome. Um, I don't know, maybe
Yeah.
Cleopatra, you have
I have
better
not
ways to
practiced
deal
it.
with it.
I was just gonna say, I think recently I read something that Garth Greenwell wrote for LitHub. I don't know if it was a recent article or if it was an older one, but it came across my feed anyway. And he was saying something like publishing never feels as successful as you think it might. Like you publish something and then you're like, okay, well, I've published, but I still don't feel like I've accomplished what I was meant to accomplish. So you set yourself the next hurdle of getting a specific review from a specific place or a specific reviewer of, or publishing at a very specific journal. And it's like an endless cycle of once you manage something, you look for the new real test that will finally validate you. So I guess there's not very much to do about it except realize that it happens to everybody, and even authors we all really admire will feel the same way.
Yeah, like keeping in mind that like if you think about the authors that you admire the most, they are just as confused as you, and like probably also feel imposter syndrome. No one, like, even if you read a book that's like a New York Times bestseller and you're like, oh my god, this is the best book, I could never live up to it, the person who wrote that probably still felt insecure about it, still probably does at points feel insecure about it, still deals with like imposter syndrome and all that stuff. Like, I think everyone is very confused, and just remembering that like everyone is kind of confused and overwhelmed in writing and publishing, like that's the normal. I think most people feel that way.
Yeah. Why do I have to care so much about word count?
You don't really. I guess, I mean, it depends on like what you mean by that. Like, in terms of why do I have to care so much about like the end word count of my book, that's a case of just like publishing has standards, and if you don't want to deal with them, then self-publish it. But in terms of like word count, in terms of like how many words you write a day or how many words you write a month, or like having word count goals, I know it seems like people care about that a lot. Like, a lot of people care about that, but you don't really have to care about that at all. Like, on any given day, I don't know how many words I wrote. Like, I don't keep track of it. I don't have a word count goal. And I find my writing improved when I stopped keeping track of my word count, because then I only cared about like the quality, and I didn't feel like I could just like write terrible things and be like, oh, but I hit my word count goal. Great day of writing. So I think the answer is, it seems like a lot of people use word count as like a measure of success or progress, but you don't have to. And if you don't find that that works for you as a metric, then like literally ignore it. I usually ignore it. The only times I know how much I wrote are when I do writing sprints, really.
Yeah, that covers me completely. Good job, Shaelin.
Sorry, just going to hunt down another question. I'm pretty sure I passed a good one. Oh, well, I found a proper one. Here's an interesting question.
Best word processor, Microsoft Word, or should I use Reedsy for my manuscript? I'm currently using Microsoft Word. Well, I don't know if you missed our demonstration of the Reedsy book editor. Pretty nice.
We very clearly think you should not be using Microsoft Word for your own sanity.
Yeah. Like,
as
I
well as
do
other
sometimes
people.
still use Word, and I don't even like it. Like, I just use it because I have like my entire life's worth of documents that are organized in Word, and it's like sometimes that's the easiest way to like access them instead of migrating it all. But it's not that user friendly, especially when you have like a really long document. It's very hard to navigate. So best start before you get too deep into Microsoft Word. Reedsy book editor is way easier to like flip through.
Yeah, and even if you are too deep, you can always import into the
It's true,
Reedsy
you
book
can
editor.
import.
What is the best way to get inspiration for a fantasy plot? This is something I'm really struggling with.
I have a suggestion.
Go
History. I don't really write fantasy that much, but there are some wild things that have happened in history. Like, stuff was insane. Whatever kind of time period is equivalent to your fantasy book, just like dig into the weird, strange things that people were doing and the weird stuff that happened, because a lot of weird stuff happened in history. And a lot of fantasy is not necessarily like a historical retelling, but like it somehow has like some distant root in something historical that happened, because history is a gold mine of very weird, fun, cool things happening. So that's maybe a good way.
And maybe for a more immediate practical answer, we have a very fun plot generator on our website.
Oh yeah, we do. It is really fun.
It is very fun, and you can filter by genre, and it'll give you a very random, but actually always intriguing, I think, combo of a protagonist, I think a secondary character, a very strange scenario to start from, and usually some suggestions for plot twists, and you can generate as many plots as you want. And you don't have to stick to
literally,
it.
the hardest part is just like stopping and actually like picking one instead of just like continuing to generate them, because it gets really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, to sort of go on a point that Shaelin mentioned, I'm pretty sure I haven't read a single fantasy novel that wasn't in some way heavily influenced by a historical happening or like a culture, or yeah, sometimes you just got to dig into something or part of history that most people aren't familiar with.
Before this disappears, someone said, wasn't there a war with some type of bird in Australia? History really is just wild. And then someone adds, and the birds won the war. What? I need to look into this now.
Yeah, that is a novel we have to read.
Yeah. See, like, that right there could be, like, a pretty great fantasy novel, you know? Old myths and fairy tales can also be, yeah, that's true. Old myths and fairy tales are also, like, a really good place to look.
Cool. Sorry, I think that could be wrapping up just about now. Do you guys have any final notes for anyone who's in the middle of writing a story, a book, or taking part in NaNoWriMo?
Have fun.
Yeah.
The important thing is having fun. Like, whatever the mindset, you know, from like imagine this is like a kid's sport, you know, like you're 8 years old playing soccer. Really, the important thing is just like showing up and having fun and eating the orange slices at the end, not winning. I think that's the best way to approach NaNoWriMo. Like, it doesn't have to be, it really shouldn't be like a stressful thing. Like, you shouldn't leave it at the end being like exhausted and burned out and hating everything that you wrote just to get to 50,000 words. Like, it's more important that you just like have fun and
yeah, agreed.
write something that you enjoy writing.
Oh,
well, I'm glad you guys. Oh, it's called the Emu War. Okay, anyways, I'll look that up later.
Cool. Well, thank you both.
Somebody says, despite that horrible, annoying horn that was able to stop my creative mind, I had a wonderful time. I think credits go to Martin for that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if everyone's good, thank you very much. Go to reedsy.com, blog.reedsy.com/live, and you can see future events happening. But thank you, Shaelin. Thank you, Kleopatra. And one last note,